Good morning. Happy New Year, Mark Reed's followers. I hope all of you had a lovely holiday season. Now we're just in 2018 and it's weird. Hi, Sam Tomrigan. How are you doing? I hope you had a great New Year's. It is time for me to read more of The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents. We're on chapter 6 today. We're going to get through halfway through 8. I think with 8 is being split in half. Thank you for supporting me as much as you have. I'm very excited to read more of this book. I want to know everything. All right, here we go. It opens with another quote from Mr. Bunsey Has an Adventure. There were big adventures and small adventures. Mr. Bunsey knew. You didn't get told what size they were going to be before you started. Sometimes you could have a big adventure even when you were standing still. Oh, I love that. That's great. Heads up. First, ooh, oh my God. I'm trying to finish off all of my tea that I have before I open new ones, because I have this tendency to collect tea like books where I just keep getting more of it instead of only getting it when I need it. And I may take, my heads up is that I may be taking breaks. I'm almost done being sick, but I am still a little sick, so I don't think we'll be splitting any videos in any surprising ways this week. But I'm getting better, which is good. So, anyway, hello, it's me, and I'm going to give the secret knock now. Oh, God. There were 3 knocks on the stable door, and then Melicia's voice rose again with, "Hello, did you hear the secret knock? Perhaps she'll go away if we keep quiet," said Keith in the straw. "I shouldn't think so," said Maurice. He raised his voice and called out, "We're up here." "You still got to give the secret knock," shouted Melicia. "Oh, per a bunch of consonants," said Maurice under his breath. It's literally like 10 consonants. 12. Unfortunately, no human knows how bad a swear word this is in cat. Oh, Jesus. Look, this is me, okay? A cat who talks. How will you recognize me? Shall I wear a red carnation? I don't think you're a proper talking cat anyway, said Melicia. What is proper? What would be a proper one? Oh, my God. Climbing the ladder, she was still wearing black, and she had bundled up her hair under a black scarf. She also had a big bag slung over her shoulder. "Gosh, she's got that right," said Maurice. "I mean, you don't wear boots and a sword and have a big hat with a feather in it." "Oh, like that? Okay," said the girl, pulling herself into the loft. Maurice gave her a long stare. "Boots," he said at last, "on these paws." "Oh, it was in a picture in a book I read," said Melicia calmly. "A silly one for children, full of animals that dressed up as humans." It crossed Maurice's cat mind, and not for the first time, that if he moved fast, he could be out of the city in 5 minutes and onto a barge or something. Oh, so now he wants to leave. Once, when he was no more than a kitten, he'd been taken home by a small girl who dressed him up in doll's clothes and sat him at a small table with a couple of dolls and 3/4 of a teddy bear. He'd managed to escape through an open window, but it had taken him all day to get out of the dress. That girl could have been Melicia. She thought animals were just people who hadn't been paying enough attention. Oh, my God. I know people like that. "I don't do clothes," he said. It wasn't much of a lie, but it was probably better than saying, "I think you are a loony." "Could be an improvement," said Melicia. "It's nearly dark. Let's go. We shall move like cats." "Oh, right," said Maurice. "I expect I could do that." Although, he thought, oh, no. Oh, God, he thought a few minutes later, no cats ever moved like Melicia. She obviously thought it was no good looking inconspicuous unless people could see that you were being inconspicuous. Oh, she's a mess, and I kind of love it. People in the street actually stopped to watch her as she sidled along walls and scuttled from one doorway to another. Maurice and Keith strolled along after her. No one paid them any attention. Eventually, in a narrow street, she stopped at a black building with a big wooden sign hanging over the door. The sign showed a lot of rats, a sort of star made of rats with all their tails tied together in a big knot. "Sign of the Ancient Guild of Rat Catchers," whispered Melicia, swinging her bag off her shoulder. "I know," said Keith. "It looks horrible." "Excuse me." "Makes an interesting design, though," said Melicia. One of the most significant things about the door below the sign, was the big padlock holding it shut. Odd, Maurice thought. If rats make your legs explode, why do rat catchers have to have a big lock on their shed? I do follow that logic. Luckily, I'm prepared for every eventuality, said Alicia. Oh, God. What did she bring? Sam, I don't even want to know. I reached into her bag. There was the sound as lumps of metal and bottles being moved around. Why? Oh, God. What have you got in there? Said Maurice. Everything? The grapnel and rope ladder take up a lot of room. What the hell? Where did she get that? I'm not even going to ask. Not even going to ask, said Maurice, still feeling around. And there's the big medicine kit and the small medicine kit and the knife and the other knife and the sewing kit and the mirror for sending signals and, these. She pulled out a small bundle of black cloth. When she unrolled it, Maurice saw the gleam of metal. Oh, he said, lockpicks, right? I've seen burglars at work. Hairpins, said Maurice, selecting one. Hairpins always work in the books I've read. You just push it into the keyhole and twiddle. I have a section of pre-bent ones. Oh my God. If this works, I don't even know how I'm going to deal with it. She's so pure in a way, and it's, oh God. Once again, Maurice felt a little chill at the back of his head. They work in stories, he thought. Oh, dear me. And how come you know so much about picking locks, he said. I told you, they locked me out of my room to punish me, said Maurice, twiddling. Well, okay. That's high motivation to learn how to pick a lock with a hairpin, so maybe she can actually do it. Maurice had seen thieves at work. Men breaking into buildings at night hated to see dogs, but they didn't mind cats. Cats never attempted to tear their throats out. And what thieves tended to have, he knew, were complicated little tools that were used with great care and precision. They didn't use stupid... Click. Oh, my God. Shirk. I need some tea for a moment. Good, said Maurice in a satisfied voice. That was just luck, said Maurice, as the padlock swung free. He looked up at Keith. You think it's just luck too, eh, kid? How would I know, said Keith. I've never seen it done before. I knew it would work, said Maurice. It worked in the fairy story, The Seventh Wife of Greenbeard, where she broke out of the room of terror and stabbed him in the eye with a frozen herring. That was a fairy story, said Keith. Yes, said Maurice proudly, right out of grim fairy tales. You've got some bad fairies in these parts, said Maurice, shaking his head. Maurice pushed the door open. Oh, no, oh, Jesus Christ. I didn't expect this. What is this? What? And it's a seam break. I could see it. What is... Oh, God. I've been cliffhangering a lot. I still got like 14 pages left in this chapter. I'll probably find out what it is. All right. Somewhere below Maurice's paws, and about a street away, the one local rat, oh, yes, that the changelings had found alive was crouched in front of dangerous beans. The squads had been called back. This was not turning out to be a good day. Traps that didn't kill, Darktan thought. He found them sometimes. Sometimes humans wanted to catch rats alive. Darktan didn't trust humans who wanted to catch rats alive. Honest traps that killed outright, well, they were bad, but you could usually avoid them. And at least there was something honest about them. Live traps were like poison. They cheated. Dangerous Beans was smelling the newcomer, a young female. It was strange, but the rat who could think the most unrat-like thoughts was also the best at talking to kikis, except that talking wasn't the right word. No one, not even Ham and Pork, had a sense of smell like Dangerous Beans. The new rat certainly wasn't giving any trouble. For one thing, it was surrounded by rats who were big and well-fed and tough, so its body was respectfully saying "sir" as hard as it could. The changelings had also given it some food, which it was engulfing rather than eating. It was in a box trap, said Darktan, who was drawing lines on the floor with a stick. We found a lot of them. I got caught in one of those once, said Ham and Pork. Then a female human came along and tipped me out over the garden wall. Couldn't see the point of it. I believe some humans do it to be kind, said Peaches. They get the rat out of the house without killing it. Didn't do her any good anyway, said Ham and Pork with satisfaction. I went back the next night and whittled on the cheese. I don't think anyone is trying to be kind here, said Darktan. I agree. I don't understand what's going on, but I don't think kindness has anything to do with it. There was another rat in there with it. At least he added there was part of a rat in there with it. I think it's been eating it to stay alive. Oh, boy. Very sensible, Ham and Pork nodded. Of course you would think it's sensible. All right. We found something else, Darktan said, still drawing furrows in the dirt. Can you see these, sir? He'd drawn a network of lines on the floor. I could see them, but I don't know. But I don't have to know what they are, said Ham and Pork. He rubbed his nose. I've never needed any more than this. What? I don't get it. Darktan gave a patient sigh. Then smell, sir. That this is a picture of all the tunnels we've explored today. It's the shape I have in my head. We've explored a lot of the town. There's a lot of, he glanced at Peaches, A lot of the kind traps, mostly empty. There's poison all over the place. It's mostly quite old. Lots of empty box traps, lots of killer traps still set, and no live rats, none at all except for our new friend. We know that's very odd. I sniffed around a bit near where I found her and I smelled rats. Lots of rats. I mean, lots. What? Alive? Asked Dangerous Beans. Yes. All in one place. It smells that way, said Darktan. I think a squad should go and look. Dangerous Beans padded over to the rat and sniffed it. The rat sniffed at him. They touched paws. The watching changelings were astonished. Dangerous Beans was treating the Kiki as an equal. Lots of things, he murmured. Many rats, humans, fear, lots of fear. Lots of rats, crowded food. Rat, you said she's been eating rat? It's a rat-eat-rat world, said Ham and Pork. Always been, always will be. Dangerous Beans wrinkled his nose. There's something else, something odd, of course. Not surprised by that, but oh god. Strange, she's really scared. It was in a trap, said Peaches, and then it met us. Much worse than that, said Dangerous Beans. She's frightened of us because we're strange rats, but she smells relieved that we're not what she's used to. Humans, Darktan spat. I don't think so. Other rats? Yes. No, I don't. It's hard to tell. Dogs, cats? No. Dangerous Beans stepped back. Something new. What the fuck? Sam, what is going on in this? Okay, hold on. So, what shall we do with it? Said Peaches. Well, let her go, I suppose. We can't do that, said Darktan. We've triggered all the traps we found, but there are still poisons all over the place. I wouldn't send a mouse out into that. It hasn't tried to attack us after all. So, said Ham and Pork, what's another dead Kiki? I know what Darktan means, said Peaches. We can't just send it out to die. Big Savings stepped forward. Oh, these names. The names of the rats are so great. And put a paw around the young female, cuddling it protectively. She glared at Ham and Pork. Although she might nip at him sometimes if she was annoyed, she wouldn't argue with him. She was too old to do that. But her look said, all males are stupid, you stupid old rat. He looked lost. We've killed Kikis, haven't we? He said. Why do we want this one hanging around? We can't send it out to die, said Peaches again, looking at Dangerous Beans' expression. He had that faraway look in his pink eyes. You want it trailing around eating our food and messing things up, said Ham and Pork. It can't talk. It can't think. Nor could we not long ago, snapped Peaches. We were all like her. We can think now, young female, said Ham and Pork, his hair rising. Now he's very openly admitting that. Okay. Yes, said Dangerous Beans quietly. We can think now. We can think about what we do. We can pity the innocent one who means us no harm, and that's why it can stay. Ooh, that was a good line. Ham and Pork's head turned sharply. Dangerous Beans was still facing the newcomer. Ham and Pork reared up instinctively, a rat ready to fight, but Dangerous Beans couldn't see him. Peaches watched the old rat with concern. He'd been challenged by a weedy little rat who would not last a second in a fight, and Dangerous Beans hadn't even realized he'd made the challenge. He doesn't think like that, Peaches told herself. The other rats were watching Ham and Pork. They still thought like that and were waiting to see what he would do. But it was dawning even on Ham and Pork that pouncing on the white rat would be unthinkable. It would be like cutting off his own tail. He very carefully let himself relax. It's just a rat, he muttered. But you, dear Ham and Pork, are not, said Dangerous Beans. Will you go with Darktan's crew to find out where it came from? It could be dangerous. This made Ham and Pork's hair rise again. I'm not afraid of danger, he roared. Of course not. That is why you should go. It was terrified, said Dangerous Beans. I've never been scared of anything, shouted Ham and Pork. Now, Dangerous Beans turned to face him. In the candlelight, there was a glow in the pink eyes. Ham and Pork was not a rat who spent a lot of time thinking about things he couldn't see or smell or bite, but he looked up. The candlelight made big rat shadows dance on the wall. Ham and Pork had heard had heard the young rats talking about shadows and dreams and what happened to your shadow after you died. He didn't worry about that stuff. Shadows couldn't bite you. There was nothing to be frightened of in shadows. But now his own voice in his head told him, I'm frightened of what those eyes can see. I love how much these rats are. It is so fascinating and cool. Anyway, Ham and Pork glared at Darktan, who was scratching something in the mud with one of his sticks. I'll go, but I will lead the expedition, he said. I'm senior rat here. That doesn't worry me, said Darktan. Mr. Clicky is going to be going in front in any case. I thought he got smashed last week, said Peaches. We've got 2 left, said Darktan. Then we'll have to raid another pet shop. Oh, God. How many Mr. Oh, my God. How many Mr. Cookies do they normally have? Anyway, I'm the leader, said Ham and Pork. I'll say what we do, Darktan. Fine, sir. Fine, said Darktan, still drawing in the mud. And you know how to make all the traps safe, do you? No, but I can tell you to. Good, said Darktan, making more marks with his stick and not looking at the leader. And you'll tell me which levers to leave alone and which bits to wedge open, will you? Well, I don't have to understand about traps, said Ham and Pork. Oh, my God. Ham and Pork is like many leaders in our country. But I do, sir, said Darktan, speaking in the same calm voice. And I'm telling you that there's a couple of things about some of these new traps I don't understand. And until I understand them, I'd very respectfully suggest you leave it all to me. That is not the way to talk to a superior rat. Darktan gave him a look, and Peaches held her breath. This is the showdown, she thought. This is where we find out who is the leader. Then Darktan said, I am sorry. Impertinence was not intended. Peaches picked up the astonishment among the older males who were watching. Darktan. He'd backed down. He hadn't leaped. But he hadn't cowered either. Ham and Pork's fur settled. The old rat was at a loss to know how to deal with this. All the signals were mixed up, which I feel like Darktan knows and is playing that angle. Well, obviously as the leader you must give the orders, said Darktan. Yes, sir, but my advice, sir, is that we investigate this. Unknown things are dangerous. Yes, certainly, said Ham and Pork. Yes, indeed, we will investigate, of course. See to it. I am the leader, and that is what I am saying. You're making Ham and Pork think he's making the decision? Oh, boy. Maurice looked around at the inside of the rat catcher's shed. Okay. Here we go. It looks like a rat catcher's shed, he said. Benches, chairs, stove, lots of rat skins hanging up, piles of old traps, couple dog muzzles, rolls of wire netting, a considerable amount of a lack of any dusting that's ever been done. It's what I'd have expected a rat catcher's hut to look like inside. Well, I was expecting something horrible yet interesting, said Militia. Some ghastly clue. Does there have to be a clue, said Keith. Well, of course, said Militia, looking under a chair. Look, Cat, there's 2 types of people in the world. There are those who have got the plot and those who haven't. The world hasn't got a plot, said Maurice. Things just happen one after another. Only if you think of it like that, said Militia, far too smugly in Maurice's opinion. There's always a plot. You just know how to... Let me do that again. Sorry, Sam. You just have to know where to look. She paused for a moment and then said, Look, that's the word. There'll be a secret passage, of course. Everyone look for the entrance to the secret passage. How will we know it's the entrance to a secret passage? Asked Keith, looking even more bewildered than normally. What does a secret passage look like? Well, it won't look like one, of course. Oh, well, in that case I see dozens of secret passages, said Maurice. Doors, windows, that calendar from the Acme Poison Company, that cupboard over there, that rat hole, that desk, that... You're just being sarcastic, said Militia, lifting up the calendar and sternly inspecting the wall behind it. Actually, I was just being flippant, said Maurice, but I could do sarcastic if you like. Maurice knows what flippant means. Oh, my God. Keith stared at the long bench, which was in front of a window frosted with ancient cobwebs. Traps were piled up on it. All kinds of traps. And beside them were row upon row of battered old tins and jars with labels like Danger, Hydrogen Dioxide, and Ratbane, and Fire Gut, and Polyputicatlon, Extreme Caution, and Rat Away, and Killer Rat, and Essence of Barbed Wire, Danger. What? That's my favorite one. And he leaned a little closer to look at this one. Sugar. There were a couple of mugs, too, and a teapot. White and gray and green powders were scattered on the bench. Some of them had even fallen on the floor. You know, maybe don't put the sugar next to all the poison. Just a suggestion. You might try to be some help, said Militia, tapping the walls. I don't know how to look for something that doesn't look like the thing I'm looking for, said Keith. And they keep the poison right next to the sugar. So many poisons. Militia stood back and brushed her hair out of her eyes. This isn't working, she said. I suppose there might not be a secret passage, said Maurice. I know it's a rather daring idea, but perhaps this is just an ordinary shed. Even Maurice recoiled a little from the force of the stare Militia turned on him. There has to be a secret passage, she said. Otherwise, there's no point. She snapped her fingers. Of course. We're doing it wrong. Everyone knows you never find the secret passage by looking for it. It's when you give up and lean against the wall that you inadvertently operate the secret switch. Oh my god. The worst part is that's actually probably what's going to happen. Maurice looked at Keith for help. He was a human after all. He should know how to deal with something like Militia, but Keith was just wandering around the shed staring at things. Excuse me. Militia leaned against the wall with incredible nonchalance. There was not a click. Panel on the floor did not slide back. Probably the wrong place, she said. I'll just rest my arm innocently on this coat hook. A sudden door on the wall completely failed to happen. Of course, it'd help if there was an ornate candlestick, said Militia. There's always a surefire... let me do it again. There are always a surefire secret passage lever. Every adventurer knows that. There isn't a candlestick, said Maurice. I know. Some people totally fail to have any idea of how to design a proper secret passage, said Militia. She leaned against another piece of wall, which had no effect whatsoever. I don't think you'll find it that way, said Keith, who was carefully examining a trap. Oh, won't I? Said Militia. Well, at least I'm being constructive about things. Where would you look if you're such an expert? I didn't pick up on this detail. Why is there a rat hole in a rat catcher's shed? Said Keith. It smells of dead rats and wet dogs and poison. I wouldn't come near this place if I was a rat. Alicia glared at him. Then her face wrapped around itself in an expression of acute concentration, as if she was trying out several ideas in her head. Yes, she said, that usually works in stories. It's often the stupid person who comes up with a good idea by accident. Oh my god. They're all so mean to Keith. She crouched down and peered into the hole. There's a sort of little lever, she said. I'll just give it a little push. There was a clonk under the floor. Part of it swung back, and Keith dropped out of sight. Oh, yes, said Militia. I thought something like that would probably happen. What the fuck? Where does that go? Oh, my God. Mr. Clicky bumped along the tunnel, making a worry noise. Young rats had chewed his ears, and his string tail had been chopped off by a trap. And other traps had dented his body, but he had this advantage. I want you to know I just now realized that Mr. Clicky is a toy and not a real rat. Surprise traps couldn't kill Mr. Clicky because he wasn't alive, and he wasn't alive because he was powered by clockwork. His key whirred around. What a brilliant means of, traipsing a passage is using a little wind-up rat. Oh, a stub of candle burned on his back. The rest of the number 1 trap squad watched. Any minute now, said D'Artagnan. There was a snap, and a sound best described as gloink. The light went out. Then a gear wheel rolled back slowly down the tunnel and fell over in front of Ham and Pork. I thought the soil looked a bit disturbed there, said D'Artagnan in a satisfied voice. He turned around. Okay, lads, break out another Mr. Clicky, and I want half a dozen of you with a rope to dig out that trap and drag it out of the way. All this testing the ground is slowing us down, D'Artagnan, said Ham and Pork. Fine, sir, said D'Artagnan as the squad hurried past them. You go on ahead. That'd be a good idea, because we've only got one Mr. Clicky left. I hope this town's got a pet shop. Oh, there's a footnote. It's so small. The rats had found one in the town of Queer? I almost want to say queer. Quir, which is where they got the Mr. Clickies. They were on a shelf labeled kitty toys, along with a box of squeaky rubber rats called, with great imagination, Mr. Squeaky. The rats had tried to set off traps by poking them with a rubber rat on the end of a stick, but the squeak when the trap shut upset everyone. No one cared about what happened to a Mr. Clicky. That is 100% fair. I just think we should move faster, said Ham and Pork. Okay. Off you go then, sir. Try to shout out where the next trap is before it gets you. I am the leader, D'Artagnan. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. We're all getting a bit tired. This is not a good place, D'Artagnan, said Ham and Pork wearily. I've been in some bad... another one of those words. Holes, and this is worse than any of them. It's true, sir. This place is dead. What's that word Dangerous Beans invented? Oh. Evil, said D'Artagnan, watching the squad drag the trap out of the walls of the tunnel. Excuse me. He could see mangled springs and wheels in the jaws. He added, I couldn't quite understand what he was going on about at the time, but now I think I can see what he meant. He looked back along the tunnel to where a candle flame burned and grabbed a passing rat. Peaches and Dangerous Beans are to stay all the way back, understand? He said. They're not to come any farther. Right, sir, said the rat, and hurried away. The expedition moved forward cautiously as the tunnel opened up into a large old drain. It had a trickle of water at the bottom. There were ancient pipes in the roof of it. Here and there, steam hissed from them. Weak light came from a street grating farther down the drain. The place smelled of rats. It smelled freshly of rats. In fact, there was a rat in there, nibbling at a tray of food that had been set on a crumbling brick. It glanced at the changelings and fled. Get after it, Ham and Pork yelled. No, shouted Dark Tan. A couple of rats, who'd begun to chase the Kiki, hesitated. That was an order I gave, roared Ham and Pork, turning on Dark Tan. The trap expert made a very brief crouch and said, Of course. But I think the view of Ham and Pork in possession of all the facts will be a little different from the view of Ham and Pork who just shouted because he saw a rat run away. That's such a diplomatic way of putting that. Sniff the air. Ham and Pork's nose wrinkled. Poison? Dark Tan nodded. Gray number 2, he said. Foul stuff. It's best to keep well away. Ham and Pork looked both ways along the pipe. It went on for a long way, and it was just about high enough for a human to crawl along it. Lots of smaller pipes hung near the ceiling. It's warm here, said Ham and Pork. Yes, sir. Peaches has been reading the guidebook. Hot springs come up out of the ground here, and they pump the water around to some of the houses. Why? To bathe in, sir. Huh. Ham and Pork didn't like that idea. A lot of the young rats were keen on taking baths. Dark Tan turned to the squad. Ham and Pork wants that poison buried and whittled on, and a marker on it right now. Ham and Pork heard a metallic sound beside him. He turned and saw that Dark Tan had drawn, from his web of tools, a long, thin piece of metal. What the kirk is that? He said. I'm trying. Dark Tan swished the thing backward and forward. I got the stupid-looking kid to make this for me, he said. And then Ham and Pork realized what it was. That's a sword, he said. You got the idea out of Mr. Bunsey Has an Adventure? It's right. I never believed that stuff, Ham and Pork grumbled. It's too far-fetched. But a spike is a spike, said Dark Tan calmly. I think we're close to the other rats. It'd be a good idea if most of us stay here, sir. Ham and Pork felt like he was being given orders again, but Dark Tan was being polite. I suggest that a few of us go on and head to sniff them out, Dark Tan went on. Sardines would be useful, and I'll go, of course. And me, said Ham and Pork. He glared at Dark Tan, who said, Of course. Rat politics, oh my god. Yeah, I want you to know I still don't have a theory about what's actually going on here at all. I don't get it. Lots of rats in one place, but they're being shifted from one place. I don't understand. What's in the rat catcher's house or shack? I don't understand that either. Sam, this is so much fun. I'm really enjoying this book. I'm going to go write about this chapter and then be back to read more. See you, Sam.